meraihkan perpaduan dan keharmonian masyarakat madani. Ayo beramai-ramai memeriahkan sambutan Minggu Perpaduan di seluruh negara. Eksplorasi tradisi, budaya dan cita rasa unik dengan menyertai pelbagai acara menarik. Kita raikan perpaduan dalam kepelbagaian demi memupuk semangat menghibah. Sama-sama kita.
Assalamualaikum, selamat pagi. Awani Pagi jam ini bersama saya Azib Zikri dan juga rakan penyampai Nur Syazwani Saufi. Pastinya topik pada hari ini sebenarnya sangat-sangat penting untuk kita sama-sama bincangkan. Ia susulan pengumuman Perdana Menteri pada Selasa berkenaan dengan rasionalisasi subsidi diesel yang ada kata ia berkaitan ataupun ia satu langkah yang progresif, ekonomi progresif yang dilaksanakan oleh kerajaan. Namun rakyat kebanyakannya pula risau, adakah pengumuman ini benar-benar rasional?
Dan untuk menjawab persoalan ini, kita bersama dengan Prof. Dr. Roselina Ahmad Saufi yang merupakan Malaysia Graduate School of Entrepreneurship and Business, pensyarahnya di UMK. Prof, selamat pagi, apa khabar?
Selamat pagi, Assalamualaikum, Syazwani Jazib.
Ya, Prof, pastinya dengan pengumuman yang diumumkan oleh Perdana Menteri ini, mungkin Prof boleh kongsikan pendapat awal Prof melihat kepada pelan ekonomi jangka masa panjang. Adakah ia benar rasional ataupun baik atau bagaimana, Prof?
Okey, saya ingin mengucapkan syabas kepada kerajaan Madani kerana ini merupakan satu tindakan yang tegas actually dalam mengurus pendapatan ekonomi dan juga pendapatan negara. Sebab kita sebenarnya idea sebegini adalah bertujuan untuk mengelakkan ataupun mengurangkan daripada ketirisan kepada warga asing ataupun mereka yang tidak bertanggungjawab ataupun kes-kes penyeludupan. So saya fikir dari segi penjimatan, hasil daripada penjimatan subsidi ini boleh digunakan kepada pembangunan-pembangunan yang lain dan juga khidmat memperbaiki perkhidmatan kepada rakyat Malaysia secara amnya. So jadi balik kepada persoalan adakah rasional tu tadi, Syazwani. Okey, saya rasa ini saya fikir sebelum kerajaan membuat announcement pengumuman tersebut, sudah pastinya kerajaan telah mempertimbangkan sedalam-dalamnya dari sudut impak, kesan kepada rakyat secara amnya. Dah nama pun bersasar kan, right? So jadi mereka tidak membuat satu pendekatan yang drastik, okay? Dan sasaran pertamanya adalah kepada untuk dimanfaati kepada golongan ataupun rakyat yang mempunyai kenderaan persendirian, okay? Dan juga pada sektor-sektor tertentu. So saya rasa ia adalah rasional kalau dipikirkan secara mendalam dan secara positifnya. Itu pandangan awal saya, Syazwani dan Azib.
Prof, sebelum ia diperincikan oleh Kementerian Berkaitan, Kementerian KPDNK hari ini, kalau kita lihat pengumuman PM, ada beberapa sektor yang dikecualikan termasuk di Sabah dan Sarawak. Tetapi ia akan dilakukan secara berperingkat. Jadi kita nak tahu adakah tindakan ini sebenarnya akan memberikan kesan terus kepada rakyat atau sebenarnya ia adalah satu usaha yang sebenarnya bijak ataupun rasional yang dilakukan oleh kerajaan bagi menepani masalah rakyat.
Dah namanya pun bersasar. Okay. Jadi pasti tindakan ini telah dipikirkan secara mendalam seperti yang saya sebutkan. So tindakan yang akan diambil bukan menyeluruh hanya kepada di Semenanjung saja. Dan kalau kita fikirkan, kalau kita lihat daripada economic status sekarang ni, mereka yang menggunakan bahan api diesel ni sebenarnya sangat kecil, ya. Dan of course terkecuali di Sabah dan Sarawak. So masih dikekalkan subsidi yang sedia ada, tapi di Semenanjung kalau kita lihatkan sebenarnya persentasenya sangat kecil. Kalau dari segi penjimatan, kalau dari segi subsidi, jumlah subsidi yang kerajaan belanjakan pada tahun 2023 adalah sekitar lebih kurang 14 bilion. Okay? Jadi dengan penjimatan hasil daripada subsidi bersasar ataupun rasionalisasi subsidi diesel ini, saya menganggarkan bahawa penjimatan lebih kurang 4 bilion. Okay? Dan bila disebut tentang dan itu adalah baik untuk ekonomi kita masa ini dan masa hadapan. So ini yang disebutkan ekonomi progresif itu tadi. Okay. So keduanya bila isu disebutkan kepada sektor-sektor yang tertentu saja. Okay. Saya fikir balik kepada kerajaan pasti sudah berpertimbangkan perkara ini. Dia bukan melaksanakan secara drastik kepada kesemua sektor. So ini juga akan menjadi orang kata kajian rintis kepada kerajaan untuk melihat kepada sektor-sektor mana yang bersesuaian. Sudah tentunya kalau sektor yang mengguna ataupun bergantung tinggi terhadap penggunaan bahan api diesel seperti sektor perniagaan, perkhidmatan, logistik, sektor pembinaan, sudah tentunya memang akan terkesan sedikit, tetapi saya fikir tidak begitu banyak kerana kalau kita lihat dari segi statistiknya, bilangan yang sebenar, balik saya tegaskan, bilangan yang sebenar menggunakan bahan api diesel ni sebenarnya tidaklah begitu tinggi.
Ya, Prof. Okey, adakah Prof nak sambung?
Boleh.
Okey, silakan Prof.
Okey. Jadi saya fikir kalau nak fikirkan ialah sekarang ni rakyat memikirkan dan mungkin terdapat ruang-ruang yang mengatakan bahawa ini akan mengakibatkan lonjakan harga barangan dan sebagainya. Saya fikir tak perlulah rakyat untuk orang kata panik buat masa ini ataupun orang kata tekan the panic button. Sebab balik kepada mereka yang menggunakan bahan api diesel tu adalah sangat sedikit sebenarnya kalau di Semenanjung, dan sasaran ataupun bila implementasi ini berlaku, dia akan target kepada Semenanjung sahaja, bukan pada Sabah dan Sarawak. Dan hanya untuk kegunaan bagi mereka yang menggunakan kenderaan persendirian, dan kalau kita lihat mereka yang menggunakan ada kategori dia, apa jenis public vehicle dan juga jenis kenderaan yang di bawah sistem kawalan diesel bersubsidi itu tadi. So tidak begitu pada khidmat saya dan pada amatan saya dari sudut ekonomi dan kepenggunaan, kesannya tidak akan begitu ketara. Tapi rakyat sebagai rakyat lah, maklumlah sebagai rakyat, kalau kita lihat pada pengalaman sudah-sudah Syazwani dengan Azib, setiap kali apabila bahan api naik ataupun gaji naik, harga barangan akan naik. Jadi persoalannya bagaimana kerajaan memastikan supaya kawalan harga itu tetap sama dan tidak ada kenaikan. So itu yang patut difikirkan oleh kerajaan. Dalam masa yang sama kita memberikan, ini merupakan satu langkah juga menjamin kesejahteraan kepada pengguna-pengguna bahan api diesel itu tadi. Dan dalam masa yang sama rakyat yang lain yang tak mengguna, terutamanya bilangan kategori T20 itu tadi, apabila sebab dia T20 merupakan penyumbang utama kepada pendapatan kerajaan, cukai golongan T20 ni lebih besar daripada ni, tapi kalau kita lihat apa yang diberikan oleh kerajaan, manfaatnya adalah kepada golongan B40 ataupun M40 yang ke bawah itu tadi, right? Jadi persoalan balik kepada kalau kerajaan kerajaan memang benar serius tentang tindakan ataupun pengumuman ini. Jadi cuma pandangan saya, khidmat saya adalah kerajaan kena pastikan bahawa pengkawalan harga, pemantauan harga itu barangan kena dilaksanakan dengan baik. Sebab ini kita nak pastikan bahawa rakyat itu tadi sudahlah menerima satu faedah manfaat dengan rasionalisasi subsidi diesel. Tapi dalam masa yang sama dia takut jika berlakunya kenaikan harga barang. So jadi kerajaan kena pastikan bahawa kawalan harga barang tidak mesti dilaksanakan dengan baik supaya tidak ada kenaikan harga barangan lain.
Ya. Okey, Prof. Sementara kita menjawab persoalan yang lain, ingin kami maklumkan juga ketika ini kami sedang menunggu isyarat untuk kita terus ikuti ucap tama daripada Perdana Menteri berkenaan dengan masa hadapan Asia di Jepun. Tapi sebelum itu, kita masih lagi menunggu isyaratnya ketika ini. Mungkin kita boleh teruskan dengan diskusi bersama dengan Prof. Prof, tadi Prof ada bercakap berkenaan dengan sekiranya perkara ini dilaksanakan, kemungkinan harga barang juga akan naik dan sebagainya. Tetapi untuk mengelakkan berlakunya ketirisan dalam pelaksanaan subsidi bersasar ini, kita difahamkan juga perlu kerjasama jitu daripada pelbagai pihak. Tetapi pihak berkepentingan juga memainkan peranan yang sangat-sangat penting dalam memastikan tiada ketirisan yang berlaku. Bagaimana Prof melihat perkara ini?
Ya, saya rasa di sini bagaimana persoalannya adalah bagaimana kita dua persoalan. Satu, bagaimana kita nak educate rakyat supaya faham tentang apa yang dimaksudkan dengan rasionalisasi subsidi bahan api diesel ini tadi. Kedua, bagaimana kita peranan agensi-agensi tertentu dalam memastikan bahawa harga barangan dikawal, dipantau dan juga tiada kenaikan harga.
Okey, Prof. Kita dah dapat isyaratnya, tapi kita akan bincang lebih lanjut dengan Prof dari masa ke masa. Kita terus ikuti ucap tama Perdana Menteri berkenaan dengan masa hadapan Asia di Jepun.
Gone through 30 years or 3 decades of extensive discussions and discourse among captains of industry, regional leaders, and policymakers. And therefore, I'm delighted to be here. I thank Nikkei for the invitation, and may I share you some of our concerns. Issue of uncertain world. Because we are living in post-normal times. There's no certainty. There was an issue alluded to the elections in the United States. But even then, whoever wins, whether Biden or Trump, the policy is still uncertain because leaders would decide based on the economic imperative and national interests. And my view has always been that finally sanity should prevail. But for us in the region, as we have alluded to earlier, our focus must be ASEAN cohesiveness, to strengthen ASEAN as a formidable economic force. We have been successful in the last few generations to fortify ASEAN as a peaceful venture with minor issues, and now having to grapple with the Myanmar crisis. But the way forward for ASEAN is to enhance its collaboration in economy and trade and forge greater economic alliance with Japan, Korea, China, Australia, India, meaning the focus on the region. When we started, or when Nikkei Future began its deliberations, we had about 28% of global GDP. Now we are talking about 35%. And regional issues in Asia are now also primary global concerns. Now, even as much has changed, some constants remain. Global economic challenges and the specter of uncertainty, deep-seated anxieties, reach far beyond borders and social fabric of nations. We are dealing with new challenges, not only issues of economic disparities, rapid technological change, environmental degradation, and all these challenges are coming at the same time, to the extent that they create and popularize the term simultaneity, everything happening simultaneously both the crisis, say, Russia-Ukraine, or Israeli-Palestinian aggression, or climate crisis, or civil concerns, all happening simultaneously, that would compel leaders, political and captains of industry, to be alert and equipped to deal with these challenges. Now, rapid technological change and AI technologies hold the promise of immense, unfathomable societal benefits, but may well be a Faustian bargain, raising the specter of widening digital, social, and economic divides. We either seize the opportunity and create this new awareness, more concern about justice and equity, comradeship, friendship, collaboration, which we in ASEAN forged to believe and commit to, or we should be dragged into the old mantra of Cold War conflicts and divisions, hatred and suspicion. We choose a more realistic approach to be able to work together, to be able to engage with all societies and countries, and that would ensure a better future for Asia. That's why these seemingly unsurmountable challenges enjoin us to seek and forge a renewed vision of Asian leadership. The vagaries of the world, increasingly turbulent, and the crosswinds of economic and geopolitical shifts threaten to veer us, of course. But unlike 3 decades ago, today, Asia now possesses the economic weight, strategic capacity, and the collaborative might needed to navigate the challenge, or these challenges. That's why I venture to assert that finally our future rests on our leadership, taking a bold move, considering and working on the strength of our sub-region and region, instead of being dragged by the international conflicts. Yes, we cannot avoid discussing about Russia-Ukraine. We have taken a position. We do not support the invasion of Ukraine, but we want to continue to engage with Russia, notwithstanding the differences. We condemn with the utmost strength the continued colonization and apartheid and genocide in Gaza and Palestine. But we call for ceasefire and peaceful resolution and respecting the two-state solution, because that will ultimately ensure the peace. But notwithstanding all these conflicts, Malaysia, ASEAN, and the region should forge using economic policies, economic fundamentals, economic strength, investments and trade, and as a result, would be able to champion the cause of our citizens and alleviate the living conditions of our people. Because this has been done. I'm not suggesting, therefore, something new, because we have CPTPP, we have Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, RCEP, and we know that RCEP alone involves nearly a third of the world's exports, population, and GDP, making it the largest trade bloc in the world. As Malaysia appears to assume the chairmanship of ASEAN next year, we are committed to continue championing these ideals. On the economic front, our focus will firstly be on the strengthening of economic cooperation among member states. I reiterate this point because whilst we have been rather successful in maintaining a strong, cohesive force diplomatically, bilateral relations, sub-regional and regional in ASEAN, we need to do much more to work together to enhance our capacity to attract investments and trade and become an important economic regional bloc. And using that to work together with our traditional allies. And Japan is, of course, very important in this regard because one of the first few countries that has helped us to propel our economy through massive investments, trade, particularly in the manufacturing sector from the 70s to the 80s. Recent diversification of global supply chains and FDI flows must create tangible benefits. Secondly, we aim to enhance our economic cooperation with our partners from across the globe, extending beyond Asia, because, as you know, whilst there is an increase in trade among the region, Japan, Korea, China, Australia, but cumulatively, United States remain our largest investment, largest country that have placed so much importance in terms of trade and investments. And now, among the European countries, you have seen growing investments from Netherlands, Germany, and France. So it is self-evident that policy making in the 2020s and beyond cannot be divorced from careful considerations of circumstances around three global megatrends: geopolitics, digitalization, and climate change. That's why we have unveiled policy frameworks in this regard. Our Malaysia Madani framework outlines strategies to drive sustainable and inclusive development. At the core is the importance of not just raising the ceiling for real GDP growth in the range of 5 to 5.6% per annum, but also raising the floor. First quarter this year we achieved 4.2, which is quite remarkable in the climate of stagnation and sluggishness in the world economy. So we align closely with Prime Minister Kishida's new form of capitalism policy, underscoring the deep connection and shared aspirations between Malaysia and Japan. The second major policy that we have introduced there is the new Industrial Master Plan, which represents whole of government approach to industrial policy. And this I must commend the collaboration with Japanese companies, including strategic sectors such as semiconductors and steel. Finally, the National Energy Transition Roadmap, Malaysia's comprehensive strategy to ensure that the country meets its commitment to achieving net zero emissions as early as 2050. This warrants that we operationalize initiatives in energy efficiency, renewable energy, hydrogen, green infrastructure, carbon capture, utilization, and storage to build Malaysia's climate resistance. And again, I must comment in my session, in the briefing last night, I'm meeting capitals of industry from Japan who have placed major interest in having Malaysia as a hub in this regard. So these strategic blueprints are indicative of Malaysia's role in building Asian leadership in the economic, digital, and sustainability. Uncertainty abroad has only solidified our resolve. So we take a more optimistic view. People talk about crises, unending, unprecedented, expressing their concern about what's happening in the United States towards the end of the year. But we take a more optimistic view. And we have seen the ingenuity of our people, our professionals, our industry to overcome this, but using our regional, sub-regional, and regional strength instead of being too particularly disturbed and obsessed by developments abroad, which we have limited capability to try and resolve. Malaysia accepts that we are an emerging economy, relatively smaller country. We are, of course, determined to express our views, frankly, openly, as an independent country. But we understand that these are somewhat unsurmountable, not easy to resolve, but it would not stop us from focusing on the economy, trade and investments, notwithstanding the differences I've alluded to. No. We give an example, for example, the vibrant semiconductor industry, which fortifies our role as a reliable regional partner in manufacturing, trade, and innovation. We have a robust and mature manufacturing base, especially in the global electronics and electrical industry, being the world's 6th largest exporter of semiconductors. Now, as tensions are brewing elsewhere, especially with the imposition of trade restrictions getting more intense in microchips, investors across the world are looking for a safe haven. And we welcome, Malaysia welcome investments. And that's why I say we have problems, of course. We want, if possible, the issue, contentious conflicts between China and United States to be resolved. When I was attending the APEC meeting in San Francisco in front of President Biden and President Xi Jinping, I said, we welcome. The meeting is something commendable and we welcome. That's the maximum we can do. But then, notwithstanding the continued differences, we have an advantage. The German foreign policy says they de-risk from the experience of the Russian invasion of Ukraine to not to be over-dependent of China. So they are looking for safe haven midway, and they've chosen Malaysia. So I believe Japan would do likewise. I dare say that Malaysia fits the bill, thanks to our stability, skilled labor force, and our economic and geopolitical non-alignment, or fierce neutrality. The proof is in the numbers. In 2023, the state of Penang, incidentally where I come from, Malaysia's semiconductor hub, attracted $13 billion in FDI, exceeding the total for the previous 7 years combined. We are setting our sights on the future through an increasing strategic focus on front-end activities, such as water fabrication, the design of integrated circuits, and advanced packaging. Now, truth be told, this could not have been achieved without Japan and our other partners in the region. Etched in our memory is the humble beginnings in Penang during the 1970s, when companies such as Clarion and Hitachi were part of the 8 Samurai. There is the first wave of E&E manufacturing investments into the country. Active Japanese FDI has been a crucial factor in the success of Malaysia's semiconductor industry, and this is true even today with recent large-scale investments coming in from Kaga Electronics and Ferrotech. As the world's foremost Islamic finance hub and center for halal trade, Malaysia has consolidated its position as the top Islamic economy for the 9th consecutive year, serving significantly as a bridge between East Asia and the Middle East and North Africa. Malaysia's openness to trade and investments, the manufacturing, services, and the primary sector alike is reflected in its FDI performance last year, during which the country successfully attracted 188 billion ringgit in approved foreign investments, a 15% increase compared to 2022. Now, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, last year, Prime Minister Kishida and I had 2 summit meetings in November and December, culminating in the upgrading our bilateral relationship to a comprehensive strategic partnership. We also expanded our cooperation into the realm of security, collaborating in the maritime security sphere. Japan and Malaysia share a common vision for Asia's future based on stability, connectivity, and cooperation in support of rules-based order. In reflecting about the state of the region and the world, I am drawn to a quote from Okakura Kakuzo, the Book of Tea. The art of life lies in a constant readjustment to our surroundings. Brilliant statement. According to certain reliable sources, accounts, Kakuzo's concept of thus in the world sane, being in the wilderness, as expressed in this phenomenal book, published in 1906, had actually inspired the great German philosopher Martin Heidegger's magnum opus, Sein und Sich, Being and Time, which was published only in 1927. Remember, Kakuzo in 1906, Heidegger 1927. Although Heidegger did not allude to the quote or reference to Kakuzo. Considered to be among the most influential philosophers of the 20th century, Heidegger, of course, has never mentioned or attributed this huge intellectual debt to Kakuzo in his Book of Tea. So I digress a bit. But the point about Kakuzo's quote here is that the art of leadership and governance demands that we adapt to the shifting dynamics of global economic, political, social, and cultural forces of our time. Towards this end, Malaysia will remain dedicated to fostering shared growth, bolstering regional cooperation, and maintaining our openness to trade, development, and commerce. Arigatou gozaimasu. You see here? Okay. All right.
Prime Minister Anwar, thank you very much for your very insightful presentation. So now, from now on, we have the one-on-one dialogue. In your presentation, I'm very much impressed that there are so many conflicts in the world. But ASEAN and Asia should really use its economic power to bring about peace. And we have to be peaceful entities. And I quite agree with that idea. But having said that, when it comes to political stability, geopolitical stability, always the basis for the economic development. So I would like to ask you one question, Prime Minister Anwar. I think you have visited Qatar for international conference, and you mentioned you met the Hamas leaders. So the current Gaza situation, from your perspective, what is your understanding about the Gaza situation?
Well, the Gaza situation happens to be humanitarian crisis of an unprecedented scale, let us view this in this context. Never mind the differences in terms of ideology, of bilateral relations with any state. But can we, in this period and age, condone and keep a blind eye towards massive atrocities? We can go on discussing what happened on the 7th of October, but do not erase 7 decades from the period of the Nakba, of dispossession, of land being taken, houses being demolished, and people being killed. So that is why I've asserted in the speech that we go for a peaceful resolution, support the position taken by the neighbors, Muslim countries and the international community, force both parties to attain peace, then accept a two-state solution. But what is critical now is stop the killings of children, women. And I find great difficulty. I must state this, that people can talk about a political crisis and be blinded by the fact that daily you see children, women, civilians, hospitals, schools, mosques and churches being destroyed. And we hardly committed or have the courage to say anything. So I must thank Prime Minister Kishida and the Japanese government. At least now, you call for cessation of hostilities and ceasefire. You increase humanitarian assistance to Gaza and the Palestinian cause. That is the human character and compassion is present. So that's all that we are calling. Even in the issue of Russia and Ukraine, we have to engage. To the criticisms that, Anwar, why did you meet Hamas leaders? I'm asking you, why did you meet Mandela those days? He was a terrorist, called by the apartheid leaders. But by the Africans, they call him a national hero. Now, the world calls him a national hero. But those days, remember, the West called him a terrorist. The IRA were all terrorists. So, we may have differences in that, but engage. What did I do with the Hamas leaders? Yes, I know them. I've known them for decades. There's no reason why I should not meet them. But when I met them, what did I say? I said, please respect the decision of your neighboring countries and try to secure peace, return hostages in exchange for the prisoners in Israel, and accept a two-state solution. Is that an offense? Did I promote terror? No. Did I recognize violence? No. I appeal because I have an advantage. What is my advantage? I know them. And they consider me a friend. A duty as a friend is to convey what is best in the interest of the Palestinians to secure a peaceful resolution. Arigatou gozaimasu.
Thank you very much. So as for Gaza, especially for the Biden administration, even for the Americans, they criticize what they are doing. So now moving on to the America, what do you think of the American attitude towards that problem?
Well, you can see right now there is seismic shift within the United States. You see the students uprising or calling for justice and compassion, reminiscence of what happened during the Vietnam War. So is just not monolithic United States, because there you can see the systemic shift. You can see intense debate. So I think it's a new beginning, but it's unfortunate that the United States is not using all its might, influence, and resources to call for an end to the killings. I mean, that's all that we're asking. They may be a supporter of Israel. That's not my concern. That's their decision. But we just say, look, how can you condone this genocide or apartheid or ethnic cleansing? And how you deny that when the whole world can see entire city being completely devastated, hospitals, churches, mosques. So that's all that we want the international community. And I think in this regard, I must say that Japan has now consistently, in their vote in the United Nations, recognition of the state, in their call for end to the conflict, and in the support for humanitarian crisis, is an important departure from a more sort of guarded policy in the past. So I certainly welcome that.
Thank you, Your Excellency. So U.S. have not utilized its influential power to the most, and that I think is a very important point. From the Asia's perspective, U.S. and also China on the other side, there are conflicts, and it's at the forefront of these conflicts. So in terms of the large continent, the competition, severe competition between U.S. and China, Malaysia and ASEAN, how do you need to establish yourself a position, and what will be some approaches that you need to take?
The States has been our traditional ally from the beginning, from the time we achieved our independence in 1957. And I have said cumulatively it is still the largest investor and trading partner in Malaysia. And now, until today, they continue to be very aggressive in the promotion of their investments. All the big players in the United States are welcome. At the same time, we recognize there is a growing economically and militarily of China and its important neighbor. I do not share this China phobia policy. Whilst I maintain excellent relations with the United States, Japan, Korea, I think for Malaysia, for the region, it is better to continue to engage with China. Our hope is that China, United States can resolve its differences, and United States do not remain to be too protective and respect competitiveness, but that's for their leaders and policy makers to decide. But for us, at least, we say we will continue to engage and consider the United States as an important ally, and at the same time enhance our collaboration with China, who is an important neighbor, too close, too important, too strategic to ignore. So I think that is the position. Well, they talk about South China Sea, they talk about some other issues of concern. Yes, but we use aggregate forums. We have differences with the United States, but it does not necessarily mean that we should sever our relations. In the same manner with China, with South China Sea, we should engage. In fact, when I assumed the chairmanship of ASEAN, I would call for ASEAN countries to take a common position so that multilaterally we can engage with our neighbors, including China, to find an amicable resolution to the differences. So I take that position. We are fiercely neutral. Nobody, no country should dictate. And we decide what is best for our country. We accept it is a relatively small country, an emerging economy, and now vibrant, be able to attract investments and trade. So we do not need to, therefore, be part of any interest or I see the Cold War mindset, but instead take this new position, New Asia, into consideration.
Thank you, Your Excellency. So, in the context, Asia and the world is now watching the U.S. Presidential election in November. So if President Trump is going to re-emerge as a president, he's going to meet a very hard-lining approach to China. So after the U.S. election in November, the United States, from the Asian perspective, what are the expectations or the concern that we do have after the U.S. election? Do you have any that you can share with us?
Of course, a number of countries, not only in Asia, I was in Europe, I was in the Middle East, people are a bit concerned about the exhortations and of the candidates, which includes Donald Trump. We hope that therefore he would be able to shape, in the event he wins the elections, he takes a position that is an important player in at the international stage, and therefore take into consideration the need for peace, security, and economic development. Now, having said that, well, you alluded to the issues that of concern, yes. Having said that, I'm back to my original focus. What is it? That we have therefore to build this cohesive ASEAN, enhance our trade, solidify our strength, and then collaborate with the countries in the region and with other friendly countries. And I think our imperative is still, well, although this moral imperative cannot be denied, we talk about humanitarian concerns, about justice, about equality, but economic imperative should be the focus. And I think United States, whatever said and done, would also require international cooperation, because that would eventually help the economic development of the United States. But United States, like China, is a huge country. It's not a monolith. I mean, you have weaknesses here, they can rebound elsewhere. You know, I don't share the view that it's going to decline economically. I mean, it has a robust economy, it has its strength, technological strength, AI, etc. But there's no way any country, for that matter, can ignore the importance of globalization, international trade. And we just hope that both either Biden or Trump would accept these new realities. It's not United States in the 50s or in the 60s or in the 70s. It's the United States in the 2020s. And things have changed. They have seismic shift in the global power play. More countries are exercising their more independent view, other than being part of a Cold War sort of a grouping.
Thank you very much. So one more, I think, question I would like to ask is regarding China. South China Sea, centered around the South China Sea issue. The expansionism, hegemony in China is getting quite strong. And 2 years ago, China is now seeing a decline in population. So they are now in a structural sort of a recession that is being told. So China, in terms of expanding their presence, at the same time, the little sluggishness in the growth economically, how would that impact the region overall in your country?
Is particularly the huge economies, major economies, from historical antecedents. United States was in a period of decline, rebound, decline a little, sluggish a little, rebound a lot. So this would happen, of course, to China, because the ingenuity of the people, the preparedness of the leadership to adjust to what is critical for their country. And I think I don't need to underestimate that. You see Japan in the same light. So I would see that it's not a structural recession. Yes, there is sluggishness, there are problems they have to deal with, but it's still robust. They are still aggressive in terms of the foreign investments, including to Malaysia and ASEAN. And I therefore I'm not particularly concerned about the talk about structural recession. About the issue of slight declining, you are talking about 1.2, 1.4 billion, slight decrease in population. I don't think you should worry anyone. I would say that it's something that we welcome. I think most countries which are overpopulated should slowly decline in their population, but I fail to understand why people are overly concerned about it. I mean, Japan has gone through that. People have said Japan as Vogel's, Japan is number 1, and probably number 2, number 3. We'll come back to number 2. I mean, it depends on how we steer, navigate our economies. And if in that case, China should be able to navigate and make the necessary adjustments. Right now, it is somewhat sluggish, yes, but it's far from a structural recession.
So South China Sea. Now China is still expanding. What do you think of their expansionist view?
Well, this is of course the perception that we receive. Now, without prejudice, without being either pro or anti or China, we in Malaysia do not have this problem. Yes, there are claims, yes, but we negotiate. As I said, and I would reiterate this point, with all our neighbors we have some problems, minor problems, with Singapore, with Thailand, but we have excellent relations. In fact, relations with our neighbors are much better now than ever before. But do we resolve all the issues of conflicts? No. I mean, similarly, with Japan, we may have some differences in policies, but my relations, personal relations with Prime Minister Kishida and Japan, I mean, to me, we're trying to do better than ever before. Similarly with China, yes, there are claims, but resolution must be on a multilateral basis, must be based on UNCLOS. We made very clear there's no compromise when it's over of national integrity, territorial integrity of our country, and there is no way we're going to concede in any way, although we can be considered a small country. But please be assured that I personally, all my years, contact, which is getting closer also in our bilateral relations with China, have not encountered a single sort of problem vis-a-vis the issue of this conflict. This was raised, and we communicate, issues that we agree and we disagree, but we will have to deal with it. We have to have, again, multilateral mechanisms, and I said earlier that once I assume the chairmanship of ASEAN, I would want ASEAN to be more cohesive in taking a common position, to engage with America as a great friend and ally, with Japan, Korea, and more so with China as a major economy. So we take this more neutral, at the same time focusing on the economic imperative. Yes, there are differences, but they must use all the international mechanisms, multilateral mechanisms, and UNCLOS to resolve specifically on the issues of South China Sea.
Thank you very much. There are so many other questions, but I think that it has come to the time. So, Prime Minister Anwar, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
They are difficult questions.
Very, very impressive. Yeah, thanks so much.
皆様ご着席
Well, thank you very much. Please see Prime Minister.